This is a side-by-side image of the before and after picture. You can tell that obviously I photoshopped out the bathtub. And the first step is to expand the canvas. So I want a perfect square. So I'm going to make the width and the height 18.72 inches. And now I have white spaces at the bottom of my picture that I'm going to fill in with this picture, with this layer that I'm copying and pasting using the quick selection tool. Once the marching ants are in place, I'm going to hit Control Copy and then Control Paste on the main image, and then hit Command T on my Mac keyboard to stretch out and make bigger the selection. And you can see I'm just pulling the box to the left, to the right, up and down. And then I'm going to create my layer mask and erase away where I don't want the layer to show up so the body of the first subject can show through. And now it's time to copy and paste the second subject onto the picture, and I'm just using a lasso selection tool to make a selection with the marching ants. And then I'm going to hit Control Copy, Control Paste on the main image, reduce the opacity of the layer so I can see where to place it, and then Edit, Transform, Flip, Horizontal, so that the image is flipped the opposite way and I can combine my two subjects together as if they were two different people. And I'm just going to move my subject around until I find the best place to put it. Now I'm going to take layer number 1 and drag it down and duplicate the layer so that I have more layers of the blue water to work with, and I can just move those layers around the picture where I see fit. I just duplicated another layer and I'm bringing that layer to the top, and I'm going to hit Command T on my Mac keyboard to transform it so I can stretch out the sides, and you don't need to hold the shift button as you do it. You can just do it the way that it is. And then I'm going to create my layer mask on that layer that we just duplicated and erase away where I don't want it to show up so the other subjects can show through. Then I'm going to take that same layer of the blue water, duplicate it again. I think this is the third or fourth time I've duplicated it. And I'm just going to bring it over the gaps that I want to fill in the picture. Then, of course, create my layer mask and erase away so that the subjects can show through the water. And I'm painting with black on top right now. I just switched it to white on top. As you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, white is on top. Now black is back on top because I'm erasing away. So you can see I'm switching in between with white on top and black on top a lot. Right now white is on top and I'm just painting back in the layer. And you can see I'm just trying to do the most perfect job I possibly can in terms of compositing the two subjects together because it was the same person, but I want to make it look like two different people. Notice how when I'm painting really close to a subject, I have a really small brush and it's a really hard brush. You always want to make sure that you have a really small hard brush when doing a composite like this and painting close to someone's face, because if you were painting with a soft brush it would look a little composite-y, and with a hard brush you have very hard lines, so the composite just looks better together with a small hard paintbrush when you're just getting in those little nooks and corners. And now I'm copying and pasting pictures of the flowers that I just had floating in the water. I used my hand to prop them up so they wouldn't sink in the water. And now I just hit Command T on my Mac keyboard to stretch out the flowers and make them larger. I am bringing in yet another picture of flowers that I had placed over my feet, and I'm going to place that on my thigh on the first subject because this is a self-portrait. I don't know if I made that clear. This is a selfie that I took. So yes, and I'm just bringing that flower composite and I'm just going to place that where I think that's going to look best, then create my layer mask and erase away where at the areas where I don't want the layer to show up, which is going to make the flower look a little weird looking, but we'll fix that with the liquify tool a little bit later on. And as you can tell, yet again, I'm using a small hard paintbrush and I'm just going to get in those little nooks and corners, which looks good because I'm using a hard paintbrush so it doesn't look composite-y and the lines don't look muddled together. And I'm going to bring in a third layer of flowers, and I'm just going to do the same thing to this layer that I did with the other flower layers, except I'm going to make it a little bit more elongated and stretch it out a little bit. Then I'm going to bring up a curved layer on each layer of the flowers, and I'm going to go to the red channel and bring that line up so that the flowers are a little bit more red and kind of pop out with their color just a little bit more in the water. Now I'm bringing on the last pair of flowers onto the picture. I kind of wish I kept it like this because I move it around a little bit. And just to review, I'm clicking all the layers on and off that we have done so far in this composite so you can see how the picture comes together once I click the layers on and off. Right now I'm using the liquify tool just to balance out the flower a little bit and curve it a little bit more because it got a little messed up when I had my layer mask and was erasing away. So I'm just fixing that little detail. And now it's time for the curves. Since the entire composite is in place, the next step is to do the curves. That's the before and after of the curve layer I just did. And then I'm going to my vibrance and saturation tool, and I'm just going to add more color to the picture. And then I'm going to go in at a 50% brush and erase away from my skin at 50% so that my skin doesn't appear super orange and overly saturated. And then it's time for my selective color adjustment layers. I usually go through every color in the list. Right now I'm on the blue colors, and I just made the picture a little bit more blue by reducing the yellow colors of the blues. And that's just the before and after of the selective color adjustment layers. Then I'm gonna duplicate that layer so that it's even more blue, and I also reduced the magenta of the blue so that it wasn't a super magenta kind of bluish color. It's more cyan, a little bit more green looking too. And right now I'm creating a little bit of a vignette and just adding more curve layers. And then I'm gonna make a few selections just on the flowers because I want to make them even more vibrant and colorful. And now that the marching ants are in place, I'm going to my selective color adjustment layers and I'm reducing the cyan of the reds. And that's just a little trick. It's kind of like the same thing as adding more vibrance and saturation, but in a different way. And then I'm just gonna erase a little bit for my skin because when I added more red to the flowers, it kind of made a little bit of my skin a little more red, so I just erased that away. And that's just the before and after of the red colors. Now it's time for the textures, which is always the last step in my photo art process. I'm using a screen mode right now with this texture, and with screen mode it makes it like super bright, so I'm just on my curves channel reducing the brightness of the texture layer. And now I'm on my red colors, reducing the reds. Now I'm on my blue colors and I'm adding more blue to the texture layer into the overall picture. And that's just clicking the layer on and off of that texture that we just added. Now I'm bringing in a second texture. I believe I only used 2 for this picture, so this is the second one. And just like with the first texture, I'm using a screen mode. I just hit screen mode on this texture. So I'm gonna darken that texture because with the screen mode it brightens up the texture a lot. So now I'm just darkening the texture, and I'm going to my blue colors within that texture curve layer, and I'm adding a lot more blue. And you can see that's the before and after. And I liked that edit so much, I'm gonna go in again and add more blue to that texture layer again. And that's just the before and after of the texture we just added. You can see it added a lot more blue, and the texture added these kind of old grainy kind of dots to the picture, which I really like. So this is a final picture. This is a final result. I really love how it turned out. It really looks like 2 different people. I'll definitely be trying this concept again. I have a few ideas. I have pink tie-dye and I have yellow tie-dye. I'm gonna use fake butterflies and long stemmed red roses in those tie-dyes, and we'll see how it turns out. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this tutorial. Please subscribe and chat with me in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.